Okay, perfect. So welcome everybody to Enhancing the Accountant Bookkeeper Connection Series featuring KATA Accounting. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Tanya Hilt. I am a certified professional bookkeeper and an impactful advisor. I'm the founder of Cloud Business Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp. Little bit about me or about some of my recent accolades. So I'm not going to go through all of these. You can certainly read them yourselves, but I am the Insightful Accountant Top Canadian ProAdvisor for 2020. One of the top 100 ProAdvisors for Insightful Accountant for 2018, 19, 20, CPB Canada's Professional Leader of the Year for 2019. And of course, many of you know me as the Intuit Global Firm of the Future for 2018. And the reigning, because there's been no more Firm of the Futures, I guess I just broke the mold on that. Anyway, and I'm also a Futurepreneur Canada Volunteer Mentor and a member of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network. So here's a new slide that I've added in just specifically for today. So I am newly graduated into be a level 5 certified advisor through the Mentor Plus program that was taught to me or executed by Miss Jeannie Whitehouse, who was on the call here. Yay. And I'm working towards my AIA, which is going to be an accredited impactful advisor, which is also through Jeannie's program. And the knowledge that I've learned through going through her program, the Mentor Plus program through her, has enabled me to launch my own AAA program. So my AAA program stands for Answers, Advice, and Accountability. So it is a form of coaching, but it's my version of it essentially. And it's helping me make a difference on offering true advisory services using the amazing tools and guidance from Jeannie's program and from Jeannie herself towards SMBs and as well as accounting professionals. So it's kind of like a step above Bootcamp for anybody who's kind of wondering. So it's soft launch, but we'll be doing a hard launch in the fall for that. And that is it for me. So this webinar will be submitted for CPD credits through CPB Canada. There will be 2 polls that must be answered in order to qualify for the credits. And a recording of the webinar will be emailed within 2 days. And certificates for the credits will be emailed within 2 weeks of receiving approvals. And a little bit about KATA Accounting. So I've been collaborating with Jonathan and his team for a number of years. We've got multiple mutual clients. What I love about Jonathan is he works in QBO, so he understands it, which is very different than some accountants. They work in it on a bookkeeping level as well as an accountant level. They're very good with attention to detail and outstanding customer service. And that's all I have to say about that. So I'm going to let you take it away, Jonathan. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And you can start sharing yours.
Thanks, Tanya. All right, let me get this shared up here. All right, so just a couple quick things about me. I'm the founder of KATA Accounting Solutions Professional Corporation. I was a member of the inaugural Intuit Accountants Council with a long-standing relationship with Intuit. And speaking of which, actually, Tanya, I have to speak to you later about something about that. I was also the recipient of the 2018 Inspire Accountant Award. We are Elite Pro Advisors and QBO Advanced certified at least until August, until when we have to recertify. I'm glad that they've instituted that because it's constantly changing. We are a trusted advisor for several cloud bookkeeping firms and are considered a thought leader in technology and accounting. And we love working with technology companies. Our tagline is communicate, collaborate, and innovate. So this is a question that I have faced a lot, and that's why I really wanted to do a webinar on the subject matter. I know that there are other people who are in attendance today who've really wanted to learn about this as well. So we're going to have a quick agenda. I'm going to really run through things as fast as I can. I am curious from all 3 of our panelists to get your opinion on my interpretation of the first 3 points. So that's going to be one of the first questions. And then, yeah, we'll have hopefully a good panel discussion and some time for Q&A. So poll question number 1, why should I hire a coach? A, to get started off on the right track. B, to help you set and achieve better goals. C, to help you create a better life for yourself. D, to help you deal with trauma. Or E, all of the above. So reminder, all panelists have to answer this in order to qualify for the CEC.
Yes, all attendees. The panelists, unfortunately, we don't qualify.
Sorry, not panel.
That's okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. There was a little bit of a delay. I don't know. I clicked the wrong button and I had too many screens open, so I lost the screen. So sorry for the delay in getting it up. So again, you must answer both questions in order to receive the CPD credits once approved. So we've got 14 of 19. We're still just waiting on a couple more people. So we'll give maybe 5 more seconds. So we'll do a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I will end the polling. Oh, good. Last one got in just in time. Perfect. So here's the results.
Yeah, and that is really the question, or the result that I expected. I've encountered a pile of different coaches who work in a variety of different ways, and they can help in a lot of ways. In fact, my first coach was a psychologist that really helped me understand some of my behaviors and my line of thinking, and helped me change my mindset to grow. And that was back in 2015. So they definitely helped. Okay. So why hire a coach? We know all high performers work with coaches at some point in their careers, from professional athletes like Kobe to, people like Eric Schmidt, who's the chairman of Alphabet, who's also, probably better known as Google. And you can see from this list that there are definitely some big names who believe in working with coaches. I think the biggest reason to work with a coach is to help bring your game up, to bring your level up. You tend to perform to your group that you're working with. So if you're working with a lower level, you'll drop down your performance, and a coach helps bring that up, I think. So these are some of the things that I've seen is my opinion about what coaches do. And again, I'm very interested to hear from the panel about what they think about my ideas here, because everybody on the panel is a professional and I am not. So a coach can help you deal with problems, maybe ones you're unaware of having, help you unmask those problems, and get you to work towards developing your own solutions to them. I find one of the most ineffective types of coaches out there are the ones who are like, here's the way, this is the only way, there's no variance on this way, because that way might have worked very well for them, their past customers, but it doesn't necessarily work best for everybody. Coach can help you set smart goals, stretch beyond what you think is possible, and achieve those goals. I know that there are some fantastic success stories from everybody on the panel, I'm sure. Coach will ask questions, listen and reflect upon what they hear, and challenge you to think in new and different ways. And they won't necessarily solve your problems, but help you come up with the solutions on your own. There are a lot of different coaches, and I think shopping for a coach is very, very important. It's definitely not a place where you want to price shop, because there have been a ton of coaches, just like bookkeepers, who popped up over the pandemic and gone into it with very little experience or credentials. So just some things to think about before hiring a coach is, the number one thing is why. What's your goal? What are you trying to achieve by working with a coach? What kind of coach do you need? Is it related to mindset, to marketing, to something specific, maybe workflow automation, or compliance and operations with some regulatory body? How much time do you have to work with a coach? And have you scheduled time to execute on the recommendations and the solutions that you come up with while working with your coach? And finally, what is your budget to hire a coach? This is not a place to go in blind. A good coach is not cheap. There are a lot of people out there who will, race to the bottom on pricing, but you're probably getting what you pay for. And the biggest price you're going to pay is on. So some introductions here. Brian absolutely blew me away with his ability to help construction clients understand the why behind financial statements, get them into a good reporting process, and then understand the what that their financial statements are telling them. He has a ton of hands-on experience in the industry, established the construction consulting in 2018. It's focused on residential remodelers, custom builders, and it helps understand profitability, sales process training, and systematizing businesses. So the thing that really blew me away with Brian was helping his clients pay attention to and understand the numbers part of their business, to understand if they're making money and how they're making money. So Julia, full disclosure, is my wife. We are currently working with Julia. She established successful and smart business coaching in 2015 and is focused on female entrepreneurs in the creative space. She's a holistic coach, helping with mindset and many other life challenges to help women focus on and execute their business goals. The big thing she helped us with was mindset and developing marketing strategies and get those going. And developing the right skill sets is also an area where she's very good at helping customers along. So she helped us with some of our automation in our marketing, and it's been good. And we're still have a couple hours, but it's been very successful as far as we're concerned so far. So Jeannie, I don't even know if I should introduce Jeannie. She's part of Brodemarkle Davis & Co., which was established in 2007 and applies financial concepts to the winery industry. She's a favorite speaker of the accounting industry events. I've seen her speak a couple times, and whenever I see her on the agenda, I try and attend because I know I'm going to get some golden nuggets. She helps wineries understand their business activities and how they relate to the bottom line. She also teaches at Sonoma State University on the subject and coaches accountants and bookkeepers to move toward a more advisory-based practice through the Impactful Advisor, which Tanya is a part of. So let's go. I'm in the spirit of randomness, I'm going to roll a die, and I forgot my die. So I will pull out my die and see who's going to go first. Let's go with Jeannie. Would you give us a brief introduction of yourself?
I think you covered it pretty well, Jonathan. I really appreciate the kind words. So, I live in Napa Valley, California. I moved here from Atlanta, so I'm not from around here, y'all. I'm a speaker, and my mission is to get accountants to do better work, to do more value-added service for clients, and to make the numbers and the information that we deliver something that matters, that's relevant, that can change lives and help companies achieve their goals. So that's what I do. Wrote books, and I speak all the time about this stuff. And I have a coach that changed my life during COVID. So we'll talk about that some more.
Awesome. How about you, Julia?
Yes, hi. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm Julia Castillo Carter, a holistic business coach for women entrepreneurs in the creative space. So I help them create six-figure businesses through micro shifts in thoughts and actions that allow a less overwhelming method to accomplishing their goals. I've been doing this work since January of 2015. And before that, I spent 7 years working for Canada Revenue Agency, and I worked directly with small businesses. And 10 years prior to that in sales, marketing, and process development with Fortune 500 companies. I'm in a little township called Romera. It's got 9,500 people, and I live here with my husband and our dog.
Brian, take it away.
Hey, I'm Brian Kaplan. I am a residential construction business coach. There's lots of different names there. I started in the industry back in 1999, kind of fell into it and learned a very hard lesson in several of them along the way. And so one of my main sort of goals is to try to help make sense of a very complicated and very challenging industry that people find themselves in. A lot of us fall in as carpenters or as electricians or plumbers or what have you, and don't really have any business training, don't have any business experience. You know, for most of us, we all went through school with no financial training either. And that's something that's really a travesty because the younger generations really don't know what they don't know. And they get into this workforce and have a real challenging time understanding how to be profitable and how to run a business properly. So, you know, and I appreciate the kind words as well, Jonathan. You know, and that's one of the main missions I have. Both my parents are accountants. And so I have that sort of numbers background. And I really do try to extend that to the people that I work with to help them make sense of, you know, all that hard effort that they're putting in to make sure that they profit as they deserve.
Excellent. Let's go back around. I have kind of a two-part question. First, why should one consider getting a coach? And part two is, when is the right time to get a coach? So Brian, can we start with you and we'll just go in the reverse order?
Sure. Sorry. The first question was, apologize.
Why should one consider getting a coach?
Yeah.
Think about who you work with and why.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, look, I've written on this topic as well, as you know, and all of the greats out there have worked with coaches. And I think a big thing that I can say for myself, but everybody that I've worked with, is that we are a product of our own perspective as humans. And it's very hard for us to step outside of ourselves and actually really be objective and unbiased and really understand exactly what's happening. And generally speaking, as a human population, we are always in the way of our own success. And so a coach can really help you reflect that and help you see where you're standing in the way. Jonathan, you mentioned, not necessarily just solving problems for people. So I always like to say that, I try to teach people to fish as opposed to fishing for them. And that's really the reality of coaching is, there's a lot of consultants out there that will do, and even though my name is construction consulting, there is some consulting component to what I do, but a lot of it is coaching and a lot of it is reflecting. And the other two words I hear a lot is sounding board. I think, especially for people in the group of, the niche that I serve, a lot of people need confidence as business owners. And I think this extends to any industry, really. People need to know that the path that they're going down is potentially the right one, or what they should be aware of. And they need to be able to bounce ideas off of somebody. And I can speak, confidently for my sector of what I do, in that many of the construction business owners I work with don't really have that sounding board with people in their region. I live in Toronto, and there's a lot of professional remodelers and custom home builders here, but when they chat, they don't really share those deep insight secrets. And that's really where the sounding board component of coaching comes in. So there's a bunch of little facets in there, and I could go on and on and on, but I'll let somebody else share some thoughts too.
All right, let's go back around. How about Julia? Why should one consider getting a coach, and when is the right time to get a coach?
That's a really awesome question. So this is my response. If you feel stuck, you need a coach. If you feel you could expand or grow and you're not sure how, you need a coach. If you find yourself repeating patterns, or if people keep saying the same thing and it's not a positive thing, you need a coach. When it's a great time to get a coach, this is the thing. When we face any kind of threat, and when you're in business or thinking of business or starting a business, you're going to have micro threats that take place a lot. The left side of the brain is engineered to shut down. That's where the rational, logical, that's what really would help you come up with a solution. And so where a coach comes in is, it's better if a coach comes in before you meet your problem, so that you can proactively make your steps toward your path and know how to deal with the resistance and the obstacles and the natural things that happen when you're on a journey. So honestly, just as a maintenance, as a continuation, as a growth, it's always important to have a coach in some regard in your life.
Okay, thank you very much, Julia. Jeannie, how about you?
What Julia said reminds me of the message we have for clients when they're looking for, when should I get a loan? When you don't need the money, right? You should get set up with your loan right before you have the cash crunch. And it's the same thing, but unfortunately most of us don't do it until we're in crisis of some kind. For me, it happened during COVID, and I had just been, the last weekend before COVID hit in the US, whatever that weekend was in March, when they stopped letting people travel, I had attended a week-long meditation retreat. And I was already realizing that I needed to change something internal about the way I worked in the world. And I'd been on a journey for many years, but the meditation retreat was the first time I'd done that. And one of the people I met said she was a coach. And I'd been thinking I needed to get some help so I could just do things differently. And she just immediately clicked with me. And she also said, and this might be too woo-woo for some of you folks, but she's also a psychic and intuitive and had some other skills outside of the life learning skills and business acumen. And had also done things like Joe Dispenza workshops and some of the other things that I'm intrigued by. But she said she was getting ready to raise her rates. And so I'm sitting there going, and I said, well, what are your rates? And they were high already. And I thought, well, I'll never be able to afford that. And so I thought, I can't do it. So then COVID hit, and I'm sitting there, and I've been working nonstop and really not having a life. I mean, I work, I sleep, I get up, I work, I sleep. That was what I was doing prior to COVID. And COVID hit, and I went, this is going to be my life. I'm going to die in my chair, at my desk, at my computer keyboard. I'm going to be working a lot, and that's going to be the end of it. And I thought, I need to hire a coach. And so I called her up and said, whatever you're charging, you're the person that I want. I want to hire you. And if you can't make me more successful so I can afford you, then you're not a good coach. So she said, but the shift that happened in me, the confidence that I could figure out a way to pay it, was the first step in changing everything about the way I functioned. Because I'd been operating from a fear-based, I must take every client, I must do more work, I must keep doing this and dragging and striving, actioning my way to success. And the moment the switch flipped in my mind that I needed to shift and I needed somebody to guide me on that journey, it made it possible for me to reach out and find one. And the amount didn't scare me at all. And then I funded it, and she's been my coach ever since. And well worth the investment. And just really having somebody to tell everything about your life too is a huge benefit.
If you don't mind, I'm going to follow up right away with the next question because it seems really appropriate. Now, you mentioned that you felt like you really clicked with this person and that was important to you. Is that a big consideration for you? Is that something that most people should consider? What should one consider before getting a coach? I know I talked a little bit about budgeting time and budgeting money, but I definitely think there's a lot more intangibles or like where you are at this time that comes into play. So I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts. Jeannie, do you want to tell us why did you pick that person?
Yeah, and one of the things that I've discovered over the years is that a lot of people are calling themselves coaches. I was at some sort of a networking meeting, and somebody said she was a life coach, and then she started talking about she lived in a trailer park. I thought, well, I guess there's somebody you can coach, but I don't think I want somebody who themselves has not established success in some measure, the way that we measure things traditionally in the world. And what makes you a coach? And so I think we have to be careful about what it is we need in terms of advice, but we want somebody who's a level above us, I think. I mean, in some aspect of their lives, and pretty much everybody in the world is a level above me, so it's not that hard. But we want something that we can strive for, somebody who sets a bar that elevates us. And what I was looking for was a connection between the technical aspects of running a business and the emotional, heart-centric stuff, which is what I've been trying to figure out how to integrate that more into the work that I do. And so having that extra bent, that intuitive psychic aspect helped. But she was also just really engaging. She was open. It was somebody I immediately trusted. It didn't matter where she was or any of that stuff. So we had a question come in earlier, do they need to be in the same country? Well, if you're getting a coach to help you on tax considerations of building a business, then yes. But if you're trying to change your life and you want to work on all aspects of what you're doing, including things like setting budgets, etc., I don't think the location necessarily matters, but it really depends on what kind of help you're looking to have or what kind of support you want as to what you're looking for in the coach. This person was the first person that I've ever met who said they did that just clicked. There was just like an alignment around the business sense and then this other, to me, more important stuff, the heart, mind centered stuff. But I think you have to make a really personal decision because you're going to share stuff that you probably don't share with anybody else.
And I'd just like to take a moment and just throw my thoughts in there that, Jonathan, you said at the beginning, everybody needs a coach. My coach has a coach, right? So, and that's exactly it. I just thought that was really interesting to point out. Jeannie's my coach. She's very well known in the industry, very well respected, but yet she also has a coach. So just, adds credence to that.
And as we talked about one Friday afternoon, there are people who influence you in your life. They might not carry the label coach or be hired professionally as a coach, but those influences you have to watch. They could be very positive. They could be very negative as well. Juliet, what are your thoughts on what one should consider before hiring a coach?
I really love the story that we heard before about that energetic alignment where what the person was saying and who they were just clicked and really matched really well. For me, I would say really consider who you are, where you are, what you are, and what you need. If you are someone who, you just need the strategy and that's what you need, then find someone who thinks like that, someone who achieves results using the way you think, the way you are, because you're going to have to feel safe, to play out loud. So get really, really good at being smart about who you are, and then use that as your starting point for, okay, now what do I need? Now where can I get that? Or what direction should I be looking at for that?
Excellent. Thanks. Brian, what are your thoughts on the idea?
I think there's some great points that Jeannie and Julia both shared, and Tanya as well. And I think, to follow up Tanya's comment, I have a coach as well. So I'm a coach for, dozens of people, but I also have a coach. And I recognize that, some point last year that, I was just shouldering a lot of burden type of thing, and I needed to offload some of that energy. And as a coach, there's energy taking and energy giving, and that relates to also the clients that you work with. So some, we have, as coaches, we have an enjoyment level that we would, and this is an important thing for all the coaches to like think about, is like, how much do you enjoy working with certain clients, right? And really get clear on rating them. Like as a remodeler or custom home builder, I would put a score to every prospective lead that came in. I would rate people based on what I thought it was going to be in terms of fit. And it's the same thing with the clients that I have now coaching. So I think that's I love that you brought that up, Tanya, because I think it's a really important thing to really think about, is like, yeah, hey, I've got a coach as well. I think, what's really important when looking for a coach is, I didn't answer the timing thing, but I'll kind of touch on that a little bit, but is just to know that not all coaches are the same. And I think that's been really well sort of brought to the table here in today's conversation, that there are coaches that are going to help you maybe more on that consulting side, like here's a system, here's a framework, you can take this and run with it type of thing. And then I'll just keep, keeping you on the clear on that nicely mowed path type of thing. I'm going to keep bumping you back onto that path if I find you're straying off of it. And then there are the coaches there that really can help explore different things for you and really help unburden you or pull out a lot of the things. And you're sharing a lot of these, it's really your innermost, darkest secrets sometimes that you share with your coaches. I mean, I certainly do, and stuff that you never thought you'd actually share with somebody, but you do. And it just comes out naturally. And it's very relieving to do that. And it's very cathartic in a way as well for all of us. So I think everyone kind of shares some of that when you go to hire a coach, but just know that not all coaches are the same. There's no question. There's, tons of coaches that have popped up over the past 15 months with COVID for sure, but that trend was already happening, is the reality. And there's a lot of life coaches out there, not to pick on that sector at all, but just to say that there are a lot of people out there. So I think, what Jeannie said about, where the question was raised, like, do you have to have that connection with somebody? Should it click? And I think it comes back to the enjoyment thing, right? You want to show up on the call as a coach and enjoy the client you're talking to, and vice versa. And, like everyone said, you have to feel safe being able to share some of those thoughts and those innermost secrets and things like that. So get clear, as Julie said, get clear on who you are and what you are type of thing, and kind of what you're looking for. And then try to, assimilate that to the person that you're meeting and see, like, is there enough know, like, and trust there? Do I feel like I can trust with that person? And do they have the right authority? Are they empathetic? Is there something that, I can see, and from listening to how they speak, whether it's on webinars or podcasts or just social media content, whatever it is, do they have the authority, and do they have the empathy part to, there's a lot of coaches out there that don't have the real good empathy bedside manner component. And I've experienced some of that, and it's kind of shocking, but so yeah, there's a bunch there, but just know not all coaches are the same. And I do think it's important that you have a good kind of like friendly connection. It starts as a business relationship, but for me, it always becomes a friendship, and that's really, it doesn't take long for that to happen for me.
Awesome. I hope,
thought,
go ahead, Jeannie, please.
One of the things that I didn't know really what I needed. I really didn't know what I wanted I just knew that I wasn't happy in the way things were, and I knew I needed to change. And so one of the things she helped me figure out is what exactly it was I was trying to get to. And I think that's a role too. And I think we do that. I'm sure you do that, Brian, too. I mean, you have clients, like we have clients that we're coaching on the consulting side. They don't know what they're trying to accomplish. We help them articulate it and then help them find their way to whatever that is. So you don't have to necessarily know exactly what it is, but you can just have this sense of unhappiness or out of alignment, or knowing that there's more somehow. And I think that's where a good coach can help you figure that out.
Awesome. Thanks. We're actually doing really well on time. So I'd like to circle back to something that just came up, and that was about customer selection. So I was just hoping to get a little bit of input. I'm going to mix up the order a little bit here. What do you look for in a customer? What gets you excited about a lead? And what makes you go, no, I don't want to work with this person? And how do you let them down? Julie, would you mind starting us off?
I love it. The part that I heard is, how do you let them down? So one thing that I've learned is that, and one of my mentors says this every week, energy follows energy. I want to do this, I want to do that, that's great. But do you have the energy and the presence of mind to walk that path, no matter what it brings, no matter what happens, and to just stay really committed? Because I am not here to manage your emotions. I will help you. I will give you tools and resources. But if we're working on a goal, I need you to want this goal more than I do. I can't want your dream more than you do. You got to live this. You got to want this. You got to eat this for breakfast, so that with or without me, you're still going to be going forward. It's just, you could use my help. So that's what I look for. And if I don't see that, and I still determine a need, and I know someone who would be in the perfect position to assist, I make that connection effortlessly, right? Not everyone is for me, and I'm not for everyone. So that's what I go with.
Awesome. How about you, Jeannie? When do you what are some traits you look for, some traits that really no thanks, and how do you let those people down?
Well, now that Tanya has been through my training, everybody I'm going to look for from now on has to be a replica of Tanya. It's going to be impossible to find. I think you look for people who have just a burning desire to do something different and are willing to put the time in, just like Julia said. That's hard to identify sometimes. But I mean, people that bring something to the conversation, that don't just sit there like a sponge and expect you to do it all. They appreciate advice, but they also push back and offer more insights. I mean, and I'm talking about Tanya going through that training, and Tanya's always been a mentor of all of ours anyway, but in terms of that class, always showing up, always having input, always having stories, and immediately taking things and applying them, which is huge. I mean, you know, I started a business called The Impactful Advisor because I was so tired as a CPA doing tax work and not having an impact on business. I went into high tech. I wanted to make an impact with technology. Everything I do, the motivation for me is to see a light bulb come on and to see that I'm making a difference. And to have a client that I coach where they're just not doing anything or they're not invested is the most depressing thing imaginable. It'd be just like going back and doing taxes. And I don't want to do that anymore. My coach tells me I don't have to. I think it's you want somebody who's going to do something.
Thank you for that, G. I just want to step in and say, you know what? I'm a product of those who I surround myself with. Sherry Lee Mathers, who was, you know, in the cohort with me. Lots of people know that, yeah, we challenge each other. She makes me better. And of course, we had this burning desire to please you and to, you know, meet your challenges and all of this. So you forced us to be better as well too. And that's where I think that connection comes with. When Sherry called me, I didn't even realize the details of the program. She just says, hey, we can work with Jeannie. I said, great, I'm in. So it's again, that shows that connection. But anyway, thank you for all the kind words. But again, I'm a product of those who I surround myself with. So
we all are, aren't we?
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. And being part of a good community like Bookkeepers Bootcamp, our Bookkeepers Corner is fantastic place just to interact with people on a positive nature. Brian, how about you? Now, I imagine your perspective is a little bit different because it's generally a male-centric industry that you work with. So what are some...
Sadly, yes.
So same questions to you. What do you look for? What do you love? What do you don't like? How do you let them down?
Yeah, I mean, despite the fact that, you know, that is a predominant gender I'm working with, and I say sadly only because I have worked with, you know, a dozen or so women, either husband-wife teams or female entrepreneurs, and it's always been, it's a completely different experience in so many different lenses, and it's really great. I mean, even in the latter part of my career as a general manager, I started hiring female project managers because they just had a much better ability to communicate with clients, communicate with teams, and all of that sort of thing. It was, you know, not to go down that rabbit hole, but sorry, I just had something in my eye. In terms of, you know, the enjoyment piece and all that, I think what both Julia and Jeannie shared is like, my coach describes it as like the people that you have to like drag through the mud, right? Like you're walking through this mud and you've got to put them on your back and drag and walk through this mud. And there's no question, like there are people that I have worked with and that you get on the call. And, you know, the best indication of this is how do you feel before you get on the call? If you as a coach are like not looking forward to that call and feeling some apprehension, then there's a good chance there that they're not scoring a high 5 on your rubric scale of like enjoyment. And so I think it's really, really key that you do that. You know, when you first start out as a coach, it's hard. You have to try to figure this out, figure out who's going to be the right type of fit. I'm really great at picking construction clients. I did it for 2 decades. So someone calls me up, I can tell immediately, like within 10 seconds, I can tell if they're going to be a client for me or not. And I'm usually pretty right. This is a little different on the coaching side. So it took me some time to really work through it and understand what those cues are. And I think now it's to the point where I can tell very quickly on a call, especially if it's a visual call. There's just a lot of like verbal cues that people give me that I can tell. But both Julie and Jeannie are right. Like when you're on a call and you're putting out a lot of energy, and there's just like someone on the other side just kind of nodding and not really doing anything, and then you show up the next week or 2 weeks later or a month later, whatever your cadence of coaching is, and nothing's really moved forward and they just want to talk about the next thing, that's just not enjoyable, as a coach. Like Jeannie said, she wanted to be an impact. Same for me. Like I got asked all these questions, I got, people asked me to mentor them for years. And that was when I was still working, in construction. And the reality is I enjoy doing that because it made an impact for them. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So if I can't make an impact with somebody because they won't help themselves, then ultimately it's not a good fit, because I always say to people, like, you're not investing in me, you're investing in yourself. So it's not a question of what I charge or this, that, or whatever. Are you ready to commit to yourself? Because that's really the shift that's going to happen here. So I think it's really, really key that you have good alignment. And then in terms of how to, break up with them, so to speak, before you get started, ultimately, it's just an honest conversation to say, look, I really just don't think that we're going to be a great fit to work together. And you really don't even need to go into like that much detail because we're not there to make anybody feel bad about themselves or anything like that. But it doesn't make sense for you to start working with somebody if you've got those little spidey senses tingling and hey, there's some cues here, someone very similar I worked with that was saying these certain things and all that. Ultimately, it's just not a good fit. So you're better off to, kind of stop that investment before, you actually, jump in. And I always try to give people a solution. So if there happens to be somebody else I know in the space that I can share a contact with, great. Or another resource, perhaps that, another place where they could potentially find somebody, that's great. I try to always give people a solution, but that solution doesn't have to be you, which is, I think, the big thing. And as Jeannie said, when you first open the doors, it's like, come on in, anybody and everybody, right? I'll work with anybody. And then slowly you learn you can't do that, because just like I would tell construction people, you can't do all jobs for all people. Same sort of thing with the coaching business.
Well, that not making that non-progress comment, I think that really probably hit home with everybody listening. It definitely hit home with me, and I'm sure it hit home when I just saw the eye roll from Tanya. So yeah, definitely. Okay, let's go back around. I'm going to tag on a question here because there was one in the chat. So how should someone decide which coach to work with, and what should they budget? I'll just do quick thing about what I do is I figure out like 5 reasons I want what I'm looking for, the problems I'm looking to solve. And then I go out and I speak to 5 different coaches. Usually I creep them a bit first online, check some testimonials, see if there's anybody I know who's worked with them, those kind of things. And then try and figure out kind of the price points I'm comfortable with. Brian, what do you think about these things? How should someone decide which coach?
Sorry, the last part there just broke up. I just didn't hear the last thing you said.
What should they be budgeting?
What should they be budgeting? I think it's going to depend on the niche that you're in and the type of consulting or coaching delivery that it is. I think, for me, I don't trade the time. I don't do the time for money exchange. So there are a lot of coaches and consultants out there that will say, hey, it's $200 a session or $300 a session or $1,000 a session or whatever the number is. For me, there is, kind of like we talked about with the commitment thing about solving goals. Let's come up with those goals. And Jeannie made a great point. Like, she didn't really know what she needed, but she knew she wasn't happy, and she knew that that was something that she wanted to change. So, and then as a coach, of course, we will unpack and pull that. So in terms of how much it costs, again, there's going to be a bunch of different factors, the specific type of niche or industry that you're in. I happen to be in an industry where there is a large volume of money passing through people's accounts, and not to be confused with profiting, because that is not necessarily always, a direct connection there, but there is less, I would say there's a little bit less money mindset issues there. There's more, speaking to the male generation or population, there's a little bit more ego that's in the way of asking, and pride of asking for help and admitting that you need help and stuff like that. So, yeah, in terms of cost, I mean, it really depends on how that coach is set up. And to me, there's no right or wrong. I do a value-based charging as opposed to a time for money. So there's that consideration. So you might hear from some coaches say, look, we're going to do a 6 or an 8 or 12-month commitment to start. That's kind of what we start with. And it's X amount per month type of thing. It's whether or not you show up to the sessions or you don't. I mean, obviously, if they don't show up, then they're not a good fit also, as we talked about. But generally speaking, there's that model. And then there's the model where people might have blocks of sessions. They might have 5 sessions or 10 sessions or 12 sessions. Like my coach, for example, does in blocks of sessions. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way that he operates, and he's comfortable doing that. And I still get great, value out of working with him. So I would say that it's going to kind of range depending on the sector, type of margins that are in that sector. And then as well, those two main sort of models of coaching, at least the ones that I've experienced.
Okay, thanks. Jeannie, what are your thoughts on this? The budget question, and how someone should decide which coach to work with?
So I loved your approach, Jonathan, which is the total opposite of mine. I should be better doing linear things and having a list and the pros and cons and all the things that good accountants do, right? It's what I discovered as a tax partner and doing in a CPA firm, is that I wasn't wired like I should be to be an accountant. I do it very emotionally, very impulse. I told you, I met somebody that absolutely clicked with me. I realized I didn't think I could afford it at the time, but when I really started thinking about where I wanted to go and forward, that was the only person that I've ever met that I would have considered doing this with. And it's just as simple as that for me. So it's a very different way. We all have our own ways of buying and processing, and I think we apply that methodology to anything that we buy. I buy cars the same way. Ooh, cool, cute, and I like the color. And how many cup holders does it have? Buy it, I drove out that same day. That's how I do stuff. It's wrong. If you're a CPA, that's not how you're supposed to be thinking. But it works for me. The budget, I would encourage you to get somebody who stretches you beyond what you think you can afford. That was the best thing that I did, because it made me have the confidence to know that to believe that I could pay for it. So I would say stretch it. And yeah, there's no association of what I'm paying for value for hours. And this is one of the other reasons I wanted to get a coach, because I wanted to see how she ran her business, to learn about things I could apply in my own. How do you bill? I didn't ask her how many hours did I get for that amount. I said, whatever it is, I'll pay it. And 1 hour with her some months is all that I need to change the direction of my life. And so I think that's part of it, especially for us accounting folk. We're wired to think that our time is the value, and it's not. It could be that one thought that changes everything about the way our clients work and the way we work ourselves. And so that was a big part of it for me. It was the stretch. This is bigger than what I thought I could. I mean, and she doubled what she said she was charging when I met her before I hired her. And I still said, okay, whatever it is, I can afford it. I mean, I didn't even ask. And so I think you should look for that. But I mean, don't just pay because they're big bucks. I mean, don't just shop because it's something expensive. But once you have the alignment around whatever criteria you use, then I think don't go for the lowest price. Go for the one that's a little bit of a stretch. Because again, if they're a good coach, they're going to help you get there, right? Put your money where your mouth is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure every bookkeeper here has inherited somebody who went for the lowest priced option they could find. And usually you end up with more of a mess than if you'd got something that was a blank slate. So I don't know if that can happen in the coaching industry, but I definitely know it's not an area where where you price shop. You look for quality over price 100%. Julia, what are your thoughts? How should someone decide which coach to work with, and what should they be budgeting?
I read your lips, and I assume you said the last part and how much they should budget. Okay. I love the two responses that we got earlier. And maybe I can just put that in context by sharing my experience. So I started in 2015, and about 3 or 4 months in, I realized that I was having a problem waking myself up to do what I said I was going to do. So based on my background and how I thought and all of that, I went for a performance coach, and I worked with that person. At that time, I thought his rates were the most ridiculous. It was $1,200 for the year, honestly. After a few months, I stopped showing up. So that was 2015. 2016, 2017, I stretched myself. I paid coaches who worked in mindset and money, 2 different coaches, and they were at $20,000 US. I didn't know how I was going to take care of that, but I knew I wanted what they had, and I knew I was going to make it work for me. And then the next 2 years after that, I went even deeper with money and habits. And so I paid other coaches who specialized in that. And again, I paid the big bucks. For 2020 and 2021, this year, I've invested again. We're looking at some $30,000 US, and this is to work with 2 different coaches. And what they do is they help me get deeper with my skill set. So again, it's who are you, where are you, what do you need? And for me, that's what it was at each time. You know, it was like for the money mindset, it was like, I'm like, how am I repeating these patterns? Like, it does not make sense. And especially considering where I used to work or who I am or how I am. And also learning that I needed women to coach me because they are more intuitive and would work with my cycles and my moods, and that less logical. That's okay. I needed that growing up in Kenya, East Africa, because the arts were not going to take you anywhere. But now I know it's different. I can be creative. I can be artsy. I can be intuitive. I can be emotional and successful. So that's what's governed my choices and the price ranges. You get what you pay for. And the truth is, I show up when I pay the big bucks because I am so invested. I am so invested.
That's a good point.
Sorry, I just like to throw something in here. So I've been taking in everything, of course, somebody who's newer, very, to that side of it. And it's funny, Jeannie and I had a conversation at one point when I was looking at pricing my AAA program. And she said to me, she said, Tanya, you're worth more, you should price more. One thing that, again, I put in just kind of a bit of a devil's advocate or a different spin is my response to her was, I feel that, yes, I can charge more. I know my value is more, but I don't want to price myself out of those people that I want to help. So I've priced myself. I want to deal with small people who are struggling to help make a difference to the small business. So I've tried to price myself where I feel is maybe a bit of a stretch for them. Maybe it's not. I'm still working with that. And like I say, it's not even officially launched yet. And I'm working with 7 people, but I'm trying to price it there. But again, I figure if I priced myself double that it would be too much out of their reach. And those people that could afford me are people that I don't want to deal with. So just another kind of aspect on there, but I'm listening to everything you guys are saying. And I'm like, maybe, but don't worry. I know there's a few people on the call I'm working with. It's not changing for you guys. Don't worry.
Can I jump in and just build on that? Because I just want to call out something here, and all the coaches are going to piggyback on this, but that's a bit of a limiting belief that you just shared there. You just created the construct of what you feel you're worth, as opposed to actually, charging your value, of actually believing. You have to be able to put that out there, because when you actually make something less expensive for somebody, what you're really saying is that you don't believe that they're going to be successful, that they can't afford it. So that's just a thing. I'm sorry. It was just this big stop sign flashing moment that I had to just jump in and say something.
Honestly, Brian, if you didn't say it, I would have.
I figured someone was going to jump on it.
We were all going to jump in there, but I also
service. Yeah, it's a service. What would be of service to them? Is charging lower prices of service to them? What would be of service to them? Are we leading with a struggle? Are we leading with a strength? Are we leading with the possibilities and what can happen? Or are we leading with the limitations and what is and what will always be? What intention, what energy are we starting out with?
Right. See, and this is where I feel it's almost a little bit of an imposter syndrome. I mean, I feel that it's high. It's definitely higher. I mean, it's 199, for one session, and a session's an hour. And yes, I'm throwing it into time because again, I'm still new to it. I'm just at the beginning stages of that, right? But so that's and again, I think it's a bit of that imposter syndrome. And you know what? I'd love to pick up this conversation in a couple of years and just see kind of how far I've gotten, right? So,
It's a date. It's a date.
think-
All right.
I mean, as I shared, I didn't think I could afford this coach. And my mental shift in going, I'm going to pay twice what I didn't think I could even afford, was as much of the value of signing up, even if she never said a word, as everything that happened after that. But also, Tanya, I agree. I mean, I want to help people, and I would give it away if I could for people that are desperately in need of it. So what I do, which is something that you can do, first of all, I want to set the price high enough so that they yearn for it, so that they're motivated to try to be able to afford the service. But secondly, if they truly want it and can't afford it, I always say, contact me if the price is a barrier, and then I'll work it out. So, I have the same, I know we all want to help people, especially people who need it, especially, like Julia said, the people who were in stress or in crisis and didn't sign up before that. We want to be able to help it, but we also know that part of that is making them vision bigger than where they are, setting that bar for themselves up way higher than they normally would put it. So, and you're just such a kind human, Tanya, that I know. But you're also working yourself to death, I think. And there's still room for you to really see, and for all the people in the world to not have imposter syndrome. You are not imposter at all. You're the real deal, girlfriend.
thank you. It's yeah.
But we all got it, no matter what we think.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
and I've actually done that just as you've done, and we've talked about that. There are some that I brought on that I know can't afford it. So again, I've said, here's the conditions, do these conditions, and I will help you, for this long, whatever, and then we'll reevaluate from there. Because you're right, I want to be able to give back, but yeah. So I take it, I know our next session, I know what the main topic is going to be, right?
Okay. I do want to push us a bit forward. I was hoping to open up for questions. The LinkedIn links are up on the screen. They should be shared. Everybody should be able to see them. By all means, go and connect with these fabulous coaches. And, maybe this is how networking works, right? Maybe I've already seen a couple questions for Brian about the types of customers he works with. And I'm sure that, offline people might feel more comfortable messaging in LinkedIn, things like that. So these slides will be shared with the recording. So if you didn't catch it, don't worry about it. You'll be able to pick it up.
Yes, and all of the links will be sent out as well too, not just the slides.
Awesome. And we do have to complete our next CPD question. So what is the most important consideration when hiring a coach? A, knowing your budget, both in time and money. B, checking the references and qualifications. C, knowing what you want to get out of the experience. D, A and B, or E, all of the above.
Perfect. So we'll leave this open for voting. I actually just wanted to say that too, when Sherry contacted me about Jeannie, like Jeannie did with hers, I didn't even question the price. I'm just like, okay, whatever it is. I know she's worth it. Blank check. Here you go. So yes, it's.
Thank you.
I've loved you since the moment we first met several years ago at San Jose, Jeannie. And it's you, it's your personality. And again, that's where you click, you look for that person, right? So yeah. And I know there's been a few questions. So as Brian, I've seen you answering questions in there. I've answered a few. So thank you for those who've answered them. If anybody's looking, it's just under the answer in the Q&A tab. And if there's any other questions, feel free to pop them in now.
Get them in now.
Exactly.
Yeah, get them in.
So we've got three people that haven't voted. So we'll give it a 5 seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Polling is ended, and here are the results.
All right. Let's ask the coaches. What do you think? Is this the right answer? Yeah, I'm seeing some nodding.
Yeah, I think there, we've talked about a bunch of these things. I think,
Yeah.
definitely for me, the one that sticks out, the money part, and yeah, happy to always talk about money mindset stuff, but the money part for me, I'll just park that. The time thing is the real thing, is like, what is the commitment that you can actually put towards the coaching? Because it's always an investment in yourself if you're hiring a coach, and you cannot bite off more than you can chew. So, I think that part is really key.
Oh, I love this question from Kim. Quick round robin. What is one question that a potential client should ask a potential coach to find out if they're a good fit? I love that. That's a humdinger.
I have an idea. I mean, what should I expect my life to look like a year from now if I work with you?
Yeah, that's a great one. I'm stumped here. I'm trying to think of what a question would be. The typical one that people get sometimes is the authority piece, like how many clients have you worked with, or what are some of the similar results that you've achieved, which is that's just very like task based type of thing. So I like what Jeannie said. That's a great question.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with what Brian and Jeannie said. I'd say the most common I receive are around qualifications and results. I would say just ask for realistic, like, this sounds really good, but what am I looking at? What am I going to face? Like, just give it to me. Like, what's going to happen here? I would say having that understanding would be fruitful.
Awesome. Well, I've got a quote up here from Pat Riley. People might know who he is, and I really like this quote with regards to coaching. So we do have another question about how do you fire a coach that is not a good fit? And I'm going to extend that one and say, how do you know when a coach is not a good fit?
I'll jump in first, and I'll just say that much like the before you hire a client, like as a coach, before I would bring on a client, if I feel like it's not a good fit or something's changed and it's not working, it's an open and honest conversation. I know that can be very uncomfortable. Any of the clients that I've worked with I've worked with some clients for over 2 years, and at a certain point, they're like, they either want to change the cadence of how we're meeting, or they might want to pause, or they might want to say, I've kind of gotten to this place now, and we're going to go do this now, kind of thing. And I think you just have to have that open conversation. And I know it can be really, really difficult. Think about it less as firing, and just that you've grown. Like, the reason you go to a coach is to grow, and you might grow to a place where that pain isn't as bright anymore, and you've got the skills and some tools in your toolkit that are now going to help you, your next journey. And it doesn't have to be this lifelong type of sort of experience. I mean, it's great if it is, but I think just knowing that it's all about growth, and it's less about firing, it's more about moving to a different place. You're a different person than when you first met that person.
I agree with that. It's only happened once for me, and I work with many coaches and mentors any given year. I so believe in the power of coaching, hands down. And what happened in my situation is that we were circling. I had a resistance and a block that I didn't even know and could not identify. And my coach at that time was unable or unwilling, or herself could not see where I was. And so it was just this dead end where I felt like I need someone to be brutally, courageously honest with me. And so that's when I moved away, paid the bigger bucks, and got that brutal honesty. But that's what I needed. I didn't need safe. I needed that Julia, come on. Other than that, again, it's just progression. You're done with this, you move on to the next thing. It's okay. It's just progression. And we coaches don't take it personally if we do the inner work. It just is.
Okay. Did you have anything you wanted to hop in on the subject, Jeannie, or I think it's covered?
I just agree with Julia. I think we don't want them to say what they think we want them to say. We want them to say what we need to hear. And I think that's a big attribute to look for.
Yep. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We have come a little bit over time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming and being a part of our panel, and sharing your wisdom and your insight into this. And hopefully some people will connect on LinkedIn, and further conversations will continue. Yeah, we just have a thank you coming in on the Q&A. So yeah, of course, Carol, thank you, everybody. And yeah. Shall we wrap?
Yeah, and thank you, everybody. And if there's any other information that you want shared, either Brian, Jeannie, or Julia, just get that to me today or to Jonathan, and I'll make sure that that's all included in the email out to everybody. And of course, like Jeannie, I've already got your website information, so I'll make sure it's all in there.
We actually did a profile page on each of you, so Tanya can have those, and that'll have some of the information. So awesome. Well, thank you very much, everybody.
Yes, thank you, everybody.
A great way to end the season of the Bookkeepers Bootcamp webinars. I know we're going to come back in September, I believe. Correct, Tanya?
Yes, we paused for
Break
July and
August. So we're always looking for ideas. If anyone has ideas, get them to me or get them to Tanya, and we'll make them happen.
So
Thank you,
great.
Jonathan, for organizing all of this and keeping us straight. And thank you so much, Tanya.
Oh, no, and thank you so much, Jeannie, Julia, and Brian. It was absolutely great information, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Thank
Okay.
you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.